Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode. On this episode, I want to go over reel maintenance with you. So I want to start out by saying, A, I'm not a reel expert. B, I don't tinker with them because the newer stuff now is just sealed and I don't trust myself to break them, etc. But what I do is still do maintenance on them. And usually the problem is I usually don't do maintenance on my reels until I have a problem. But when I have a problem with one, then I kind of go through them all, which is, it's kind of bad on me, but I do. But you know, your bait casters are pretty cut and dry. You know, I've had this one for quite some time. This is my oldest one, which is about 4 or 5 years old, the Shimano DC. I got 3 or 4 of them in the past, but then I kind of got back into saltwater and then I kind of came back to freshwater and I sold and bought and sold and bought. So now I'm back to 3 DCs, but I did keep one of these and I think this is my oldest one from 2017 or 18 when they first came out, or not much after, but it's still with me. You know, and that's with minimal maintenance. But when I have when I have a problem with one reel, that's when I usually take them apart and do them all. But you know, you want to start out, you know, this one needed a new line, so you want to start out by taking your line off if you are going to. If you're not, you don't have to do that. You can save your braid or whatever on the reel itself, on the spool, just bring it out. But I can see in here I got a lot of dirt, debris, etc. And the problem with this reel is I got some sand or some little bit of dirt in the level line, so it's making a clicking sound. So what I normally do is I take my air compressor and I set it to 30 psi. That's about it. Not much higher than that because you don't want it to cause any damage. And what I'll do is I'll spray it in there, work it across, keep spraying it in there until I hear that sound come out, which means I blew it out and got it out of the, you know, the worm drive in there for the top of your level line there. And the next thing I use is a Real Clean. It's from Ardent. It's called Real Clean. And what I'll do is I'll spray down. This is all part. I'll put a pretty good heavy coating on there. It doesn't hurt it. You can put this all over the place. And I'll take my microfiber towel and I will clean it completely down, and you can see what's coming off there. I apologize if you hear any kids screaming or parents screaming because they're outside playing in the pool next door, and I like to have the you know, the garage door open for better lighting now. So I do apologize if you hear a bunch of screaming kids or yelling parents. You know how it goes. So I'll wipe everything down really good that I can get to with my rag. And when I can't get to it, I use Q-tips, and I'll get in there to all the tight spots and get all the areas out that I won't be able to reach with my finger. And you can see that's a mix of dirt, debris, old oil, old grease, etc. And I get through all the little nooks and crannies. You know, every reel is different. You know, some are bigger than others, etc. Saltwaters are, you know, even bigger than these, and you know, you can get in a lot easier. But these small bait casters, you know, you really got to, you can see how much has come out of there. You really got to get in with a Q-tip and clean them up really good. And that's how you get all your stuff out. I should do this more, but it's just a time restraint. You know, like I said, my hands are big, and tinkering with all these small parts, I'll end up losing a part. So I really don't touch my reels as far as fixing them. Just because the reels now are so much different from when I was growing up. But you know, back in the day, I would take the reels apart and fix them myself. I've done a couple spinning. I'm better at spinning, you know, fixing the line rollers and all that stuff, you know, replacing the bearings and that, etc. is not bad. So once I get everything pretty much clean, what I'll do is I just take the oil that came with the reel itself. If you don't have that from when you bought your reels new, it's very inexpensive. You can go grab it from, you know, any of the tackle supply stores or online stores. And what I'll do is I'll take the oil that came with the reel and I will stick some down, not grease, I'll stick oil down inside where the spindle goes inside the internal gears of the bait caster. Same thing on this side. You know, it's all sealed, so there's not much I really take apart in here because this is digitally controlled, and I wouldn't even want to take it apart because I would mess it up. But once again, just kind of wipe this down. I don't want to bore you with every step. Just wipe down your reel really good, and then same thing inside there. I'll put a couple of drops inside there as well. level wind, you know, where the worm drive is and the guide for the actual level wind. What I'll do is where the worm drive is I use the Ardent real butter. You can use any grease for, you know, any real grease that you want. This is just the stuff I have. And what I'll do is I'll move the level wind to one side, put a, you know, thin coating. The main thing is you do not want to use a lot. I'll work it to the other side, and I'll make sure I'll get the other side of the worm drive there. And then I'll work that back and forth a little bit. Then I mix it with a little bit of oil. Not sure if this is right, but this is what I do. Because to me, it softens the grease up a bit. And I do a mix of both on there. And you can see how much actually faster this thing's actually spinning now. You know, because it's lubed up now. And what I do is I take off any of the excess I see here, so it doesn't build up where, that's where your dirt's going to attach to and stuff. So I take off any excess that's coming off. And then I'll take a little bit of oil on the guide bar that you know, holds your worm drive, that little bar there. And I'll put you know, quite a bit of oil on there. Once again, I work that back and forth. It just provides, you know, lubricant for that guide to go back and forth. And then I just kind of wipe it off again. So there's not a lot of excess stuff on there. Then we make sure everything's clean before you put back together. The spool itself, I'll take this reel cleaner and I'll wipe that down as well. Wipe down the spindle. So the reason why I put oil inside there, you know, because this is like a piston, you know, or whatever of an engine. So, you know, you put oil in your engine for your piston to, you know, work right and be lubricated. So we do the same thing inside there, and then put your reel back together. We're at 2 clicks. And you can see it's quiet, doesn't make a sound except for those, you know, when I go really fast. But it's nice and smooth now, it's clean. And the main thing is make sure your spool tensioner is where it should be in case, you know, you moved it while you're cleaning it. Make sure it's, you know, not too tight and you didn't move it. And the key with that is if the spool moves back and forth, it's too loose. You just tighten a little bit by little bit until that spool has no movement back and forth. And that's it. You know, that's your bait caster. Then at the end, what I use is this Clenzoil. You know, if you don't have Clenzoil, I just started using this not too long ago when I was doing some salt water. I came across it, but you can take WD-40 too as well. WD-40, I would probably put on a microfiber towel first before wiping down your reel, and so you're not caking it on. But this stuff is made to, it says cleans, protects, lubricates, and prevents rust. It's made for, you know, anything, you know, boat related or tackle related. And I'll spray that on, and that prevents, you know, prevents the rust, even though I shouldn't get rust in fresh water as much. But when I do salt water, every time I come home, I do use that on all my reels. That's the only time my reels actually get touched the most, is when I'm doing salt water. And I just wipe everything down. You can see it protects the coating on it. Wipe off any excess grease, and you'll be good to go. So, you know, once again, not a reel expert, but I just do my simple maintenance like this just to help prolong the life of my reels. But I mean, if I can get 10 years out of a reel that cost me $250 or whatever, I'm happy with that. You know, at that point, technology is going to be improved even better. Even though the basic, you know, fishing reels back in the day really haven't changed, like the Van Stalls and all that. Those things are so simple. And, you know, if they made a little bit smaller ones, I'd probably get them for freshwater if I actually used a lot of spinning reels, but I don't. Because those you can take apart and fix them yourself very easily. They have like kits they sell you. It's pretty cool, actually. So, and that's it, and I do a good cleaning. So that's what my bait caster. Now my spinning reels, once again, these things are sealed. You know, they're a big difference from what they used to be. Just loosen up your drag knob, take your spool off. You can see it's pretty much sealed. So what I normally do is, when I take that off, you got that little hole in between there. I'll just spray in there a little bit. Make sure there's no, like, you know, dirt or debris in there. And then once again, I'll spray the cleaner on everything, wipe it down, including the bail wire. And there's not much here. So what I normally do here, because this, you know, this is the, you know, the shaft here goes up and down. So what I'll do is I'll extend it all the way up. I'll take the oil and just put a couple drops at the base of the shaft. Once again, this is like a piston, so you need oil in your engine. And I'll just let that work back and forth. I do not put grease on it. I just put the oil in there. I'll work it back and forth. I can actually tell it's gotten a little bit smoother already. And then I'll stick a couple more in there, and that's it, and I'll work in the next time. And then at top here, you don't want to dig in here too much. You're just going to have the grease that's inside here where your drag is. Just wipe everything down on the bottom. I mean, all you really have anymore is just the clickers and stuff. There's, you know, the little thing that makes the clicking sound for your drag. You know, on here you're going to see your leftover grease from the factory. and you can tell they don't put a lot on there. So same thing, I just put a little bead. That was actually probably too much, and I'll work it around with my finger, and then I won't, you know, I'll wipe off a little bit more of the excess so there's not a lot on there. You just need just a little, just to work across there. I actually wiped off too much. But there's a couple drops, you know, kind of do dabs is probably the best way of doing it. And then put it back together. Make sure you don't see anything in there. Knob back on. Sorry if I'm sweating because it's actually kind of hot out today. You can feel the sweat dripping down me. Tighten that up. Couple last things I'll do with my spinning reels is I'll take the handle off it, because you know debris gets behind that too as well. Take the cap off the other side and just lightly spray in there in case there's anything in there. I'll take the reel clean, just kind of wipe off some of the excess original oil and grease from the factory. Then on the threads of the handle, I'll put a little bit of grease, not a lot. Kind of work it around the threads there. And then I'll thread it back in. Put the cap back on. And the final thing, one of the final things I'll do is I'll hit the line roller with just a couple dabs of grease. Now obviously you're not gonna get that to move too easily until you actually like bring a line through it, but let's put a couple dabs, not oil, sorry, not grease, oil. I'll put that on the line roller too. That's gonna work into that bearing, because basically that's what it is a bearing. It's a moving bearing that helps that line go smoother on your reel. And you can tell how smooth it is. It's actually better than when I took it apart, that's for sure. And then at the end, same thing, I'll take the Clenzoil. You can get this stuff on your line and stuff, it doesn't make a difference. And this is your protectant. It's gonna keep the, you know, help the finish, keep any rust from forming if you're in a lot of salt. And just wipe it down really good. So these are just simple steps that you have to do. One other thing too that I do every day when I come off the water is I will loosen the drag on my reels. Baitcasters, spinning reels, everything. I loosen the drag because you don't want to leave your drag tight all the time, because over time it compresses the washers and it doesn't make it as effective. So you always want to loosen your drag when you're done off the water every day. It's not a big deal to twist the knob, twist the star on your you know, bait caster. I twist it all the way back, and when I go fishing, that's when I set it, but I always pull it all the way back and make sure the drag is always loose, because you know it's going to help prolong your washers and everything too as well. So you always want to loosen your drag. And that's about it. So all you really need is some real grease, real oil. I use some kind of cleaner. This is the one I just have, the real Clean it's called, you know, from Ardent. And I use this Clenzoil. But if you don't have this Clenzoil, you know, what I do is just, if most people have WD-40 laying around the house, you know, I just put that on the rag first before I wipe it off and use that as a protectant. And you need some Q-tips. That's it. Just simple maintenance like that, keeping your reels clean, keeping the debris out of it is going to prolong your reels for a long time. You know, the quality of the reels now are a lot better than they used to be. Now, unless you have one of those simple old school reels, some of those things are just keep going because there's nothing wrong with them. You can change the gears on them, etc. But just want to do a quick little video, guys, of how I do simple maintenance on my reels and cleaning. And it's usually only when I have a problem. Unfortunately, I got to start doing it more. But you know, I suggest at least 2 times a year, every 6 months, if you fish at least every weekend, every 6 months you should take your reels apart and clean them up anyway, and it just helps everything overall. So hope you guys like this little video. Maybe it's, you know, taught you guys a few things, a couple little tips or some products that I use that I came across through the years to make my reels last a lot longer. As always, guys, I appreciate all of you watching. Be safe on the water, and I'll catch you guys on the water. See you soon.